Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Wicked Curious Radio. I am your mystery maven, Roxie Zwicker from New England Curiosities. Thank you so much for joining us on this hot afternoon here in Massachusetts.
Hot.
It's hot. I am here with the Professor Lou Blassie and the amazing Ken.
Hello.
And this is going to be a bit of a catch-up show for us. And I don't mean like ketchup as ketchup and fries, but I mean like catch-up because...
I'm curious about ketchup.
Of course you are.
Yeah.
You're just waiting for our food segment.
That's
I know
right.
you
There you go.
are,
Yeah.
as you're always the biggest fan of our food segment on Wicked Curious. But we've had a pretty interesting couple of weeks, so we wanted to get you caught up with some of the doings and goings on with us at New England Curiosities, and we also want to talk about our upcoming trip. And we have a headless ghost story. Since we're going up into Maine for our trip, we'll give you a headless ghost story a little bit later on today's show.
Good stuff.
All good stuff. So we were just talking about all the messages that are coming through. If you are interested in taking a tour with us in October, I know it's August right now. Please make your reservations. Just to give you an idea of how crazy it's starting to get, we put up 2 haunted Kittery and York trolley tours, and they sold out in 24 hours. So,
Not for October. These are ones that are coming up.
for October. They're
For October, yeah. And they're gone.
And they're gone.
Wow.
And they sold out in 24 hours.
Wow.
So now I'm getting the angry emails and angry messages that I couldn't get a ticket and so on and so forth. So I'm adding tours and events for October and November as my time allows. I'm one person.
So more to come.
One person.
Yeah.
There will be more to come, but if there's something you're contemplating on booking for October, even our Halloween night tour is starting to sell out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Just make your reservations, pretty soon. If you need any idea of what's happening with the season, really all you have to do is stop into, your local craft store. Like we went to Michael's yesterday, and Michael's is full of Halloween stuff. So
Is it?
yeah, and
It's
they
all
actually
out.
had some Christmas stuff in there as well.
Wow.
So just something to think about.
So
it's a
don't
couple months
hesitate.
away.
Buy the tickets.
Yeah, don't hesitate. And if you need to do a private booking, a booking for a speaking engagement, like now is the time. So I don't mean to be right out of the gate with that, but it is just something kind of crazy going on with us right now, and you don't want to miss out on some October fun and
you're
folklore.
not kidding. The messages have been flying.
Oh no,
The last week or so.
Yeah, it's been.
And I'm only seeing a small aspect of it. But yeah.
It's been really crazy.
Yeah.
It's been really crazy.
October's a big deal.
October is a big deal. And I mean, with that, we are so thankful and so grateful that we have so many people that come back year after year. And, we're exposing more people to New England ghost stories and legends all the time. So, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. And we're just very thankful that people want to spend that time with us. So we don't want you to miss out is basically what we're trying to say.
Because the tours are so much fun.
Well, the tours are fun. Well, that leads us into where I was going to go to next.
Uh-oh.
Mostly fun.
They're mostly fun. Not that we. Well, no, we didn't. I didn't have fun. So I'm sure you're aware of the weather that we had at the end of last week, like on Friday. Tornado warnings and heavy downpours. And guess who had 2 tours scheduled for Friday?
Oh, God.
And they were 2 sold-out tours on Friday. And I did my best to keep my eye to the weather and really watch, because sometimes on the coast we get lucky that it's more interior, that it tends to go up more to the mountains.
Stuff dissipates as it gets to the coast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, tends to.
And we only had, I think, 1 or 2 parties call concerned about whether or not we were going to cancel. So I was thinking, too, you know what, everybody's kind of on the same feel as I am, that we're going to have the tour.
Right.
So I pretty much pulled up the radar like 5 minutes before I did my Friday night 6 o'clock tour, and I'm like, oh, we'll be fine for probably an hour. Maybe towards the end it'll start raining. And we were out there maybe a half an hour. I had probably done almost a third of the tour. We went to the music hall and it started to rain, so I brought everybody underneath the awning, and we had about 25 people. So we're all under the awning, and I'm like, okay, we're going to move to our next location. And I always tell people, it's when it rains or it's weathering, it's the tree and awning tour of Portsmouth, so I kind of know where we can go. It's true.
Well, sure, why not?
Yeah.
And I always tell people, bring an umbrella just in case, weather's unpredictable. And of course, half of the people on our tour did not have umbrellas. Everybody's dressed for summer. I've got, my huge getup on and my giant hat on, and it started to rain and thunder and lightning and like black green skies over us. And I'm like, all right.
Black green.
Yeah, that
nasty
weird
thunderstorm.
color that the sky gets when you're like, okay, a tornado's about to touch down. That was the color of the sky, and I was trying to be as positive as possible. Like, just gonna pass right by. We'll be okay. We'll just, we'll go under the awnings. We'll go under the trees. So we got in front of the John Paul Jones house, and I brought everybody under the tree, and I am looking at my tour guests, and they looked miserable.
Yeah.
They were just drenched. So I gave everybody the opportunity. I says, if you want to get a credit, we can do a credit. If you want me to continue the tour, I would have continued the tour. And most of the people were like, we'd like to go back.
Yeah.
So it's actually a long walk back, and everybody made off to their cars, and it was just me and a few other people. And I got back to Deadwick, and I was wringing out my clothes, wringing out my shoes.
Yeah.
So
it was, probably one of the worst storms that I've been caught in since I've been touring. It was absolutely brutal. And then I had another tour right after it.
So I brought a change of wardrobe for her, so she can be dry again.
So I called Ken, and I'm like, I need shoes. I need everything. I need towels.
Need a snorkel.
I truly needed a snorkel. It was bad. And then I was like, we're going to be doing it again. So the rain stopped, and I was like, all right, we'll be okay. And here comes the next round of people, and they're all ready to go. And we were good for about 5 minutes. Got down to the waterfront, got to the gate of the cemetery.
Got black again.
And the sky got black again, and there's thunder around us, and the sky opened up again. But luckily, Ken had actually been thinking and made some preparations.
I saw the clouds coming in, and I'm like, this might not be good. And I noticed over at Strawberry Bank, they had set up one of those huge tents for a wedding.
Oh,
So
nice.
I'm like, well, we could just go duck under that if we need to. And sure enough,
Nice.
we needed to.
So we went under the tent, and I pulled everybody in the middle of the tent onto the dance floor. They had a dance floor that was set up. And I'm saying to myself, how long is this going to take to pass?
It was lightning.
Oh, it was crazy. Wow. And there was like nobody out. It was just us under the tent. That tour, we had 26 people and the two of us. So I decided I bring my iPad on my cemetery tour because I want to show like the underside of the cemetery. I have some really cool pictures of the burying ground a lot of people haven't seen.
Old photos.
Really cool old photos. Photos of bones and stuff that's been dug up and gravestones. So I decided to do that portion of the tour underneath the tent. And I think it lasted probably about 15, 20 minutes, and then it finally started to let up, which was
lucky.
great.
Yeah.
So it passed overhead, and we were able to get over to the cemetery. And I don't know if it was the electricity that was in the air or the energy that was in the air. It was probably one of the most potent cemetery tours that we've done in a long time.
Really?
Because people were just constantly commenting how much they were getting touched. They were actually feeling physical contact in the cemetery. One woman said that she started to feel like she couldn't breathe in there. And,
Wow.
and that happened a couple of weeks ago when we brought Ron and Leslie up to the cemetery. Leslie said she actually felt her lungs filling with fluid. And of course, when we talked to Elizabeth, she died from consumption, so her lungs filled with fluid. So same thing was kind of happening to one of our tour guests as well. I actually got an email, which I haven't even told Ken yet, after the tour that some of our tour guests had brought their cameras, and their cameras worked before the cemetery, and then they worked after the cemetery, and all the pictures that they got inside the cemetery were just lines of energy in there.
Wow.
So
Interesting.
we had that happen while we were on the cemetery tour. We were able to do some good spirit communication with Elizabeth, connect some of the people to the spirits that were with them on the tour, and it was just it was really cool. I mean, I was drenched from that tour too, like from even just the 5 minutes we're out in the rain.
Right.
It was still, totally soaking wet.
But luckily it stopped.
But
doesn't
luckily,
take long, yeah.
luckily it stopped. But the cemetery was drenched as well. But somehow we made the best of it, and we did, the whole cemetery tour, which was great, and everybody was happy. We didn't lose anybody.
Everybody stuck it out.
Yeah, everybody stuck it out, and it was just I wondered afterwards, like if the electricity in the air like just made more energy for spiritual things to happen.
Well, we've talked about this on shows. The ocean, a lot of energy in the ocean, a lot of energy in storms. You would think
The
it
tide
would
was
kick
up, too.
stuff up. Yeah.
And there was a woman who was on the tour, and we were underneath our spooky, creepy tree, And she said, I don't know, who this is or what they have to say. She says, but I have somebody telling me that we need to go and look at this gravestone. And it's a gravestone we usually stop at before we leave the cemetery. And she's like, I don't know. She says, this guy, William Button, he fell off one of his ships into the Piscataqua River and drowned in 1693. No. And she's like, we need to go see the stone. I'm like, oh, that's a stone we normally see. I said, we just haven't gotten over to it yet. But everybody was having some sort of experience.
Getting vibes off that.
Yeah, it was it was really cool what was going on, and right after that storm.
Yeah, I mean, it's a rare tour where so many people picked up on something or had an experience or got emotional or got touched.
Strong enough so that person told you we have to see this specific stone.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then people lined up afterwards to say, oh, I was standing over here and I felt somebody's hand on my shoulder, or while you were talking about this, I felt this going on. So like I said, I don't know if it was just a particularly busy night for the spirits in the cemetery, which nothing surprises us over there really in the end, but it just seemed to be a lot that night with just the electricity that was in the air as well.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. With the lightning that was happening and everything, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if that really helped feed the energies of the spirits.
Yeah, and there was a woman that we were doing some dowsing for with Elizabeth, because we do our spirit communication to ask Elizabeth who our guests walked in with. And sometimes when I'm dowsing, and it's hard to explain to some people because they don't understand, but I get like drop-in information, like additional information about what I need to tell the tour guests from whatever strange source it comes from.
So you have like a producer talking in your ear?
Basically.
You get like a sudden knowing.
Yeah, it's just like a little quick channeling, a little burst of energy, and I always let it out. And this woman had wanted to ask some questions of Elizabeth, and I was just like, oh, I says, whoever you're asking about, passed away very recently. Like I could just feel it off of her. And it's one of those things that's hard to describe. Like, what does it mean to feel something like that? But it was just, I kind of knew that the reason why she was there is because someone had just died.
Right.
Not knowing the woman or her history.
Yeah, no information from her at all at this point.
No information. And we were able to make a connection, and the spirit wouldn't pass because she wanted forgiveness, but not from the woman that was at the cemetery, but from somebody that she knew.
Right.
So as we were going through that, it was strange for me because as soon as we got that confirmation, I was covered in goosebumps. Mm-hmm. I mean, I stopped and put the rods down, and I was like, this is just too weird for even me.
Yeah, that must take something for you. You've seen some things.
Yeah, it does. I was just like, oh, okay, that's, I don't know if, she was there or what it was, but I was like, okay, we're going to stop for a minute. and for anybody that's been on a tour, or if you're coming on a tour, and if I say I'm going to stop for a minute, then know that I've just got weirded out.
Yeah. You've got weirded out.
I got weirded out.
Yeah, it's a rare thing.
Yeah, your ghost tour lady.
That's when I want to go home. When you get weirded out.
Great.
Now we're losing control. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say we're losing control.
No, not
but it
kidding.
was just it was just so strong.
We're looking to you for leadership.
Great, thanks. No pressure at all. But it was just really cool. I was like, all right, so we're just gonna step back for a minute and take a break and take your pictures and all of that. But it was just like that immediate confirmation of what was going on there was just so cool.
Well, it's just the energies were that strong in there for sure that night.
I mean, it was so strong that it was just physical sensation after physical sensation. I think that's the point I'm trying to make.
In your work, do you pay attention to a weather report? In other words, can you predict it? Do you look at a night and say, "Oh, it's a good night. I'm going to go do this"?
Sometimes, but not all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can. Sometimes I'll say to Ken, "Oh, there's something in the air."
Yeah.
Like I just
It'll be
know.
a vibe or something.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, tonight's going to be a good night. There's just something in the air about it. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's a full moon or how the planets are lined up. It's just how I'm feeling about it.
Yeah.
More than the forecast.
Yeah, more than the forecast. I mean, I love to tour
your
under
own spiritual forecast. So some nights you're feeling it.
Yeah, some nights I'm feeling it. And that, I mean, that
feeling it, you're feeling it, or feeling it's out there?
Feeling that it's, I don't know. I guess it's a combination of both, kind of feeling that I'm going to encounter something or something's going to happen. I always say to Ken, something's going to happen. I don't know what it is, but I kind of feel something's going to happen.
Sometimes it's just, I don't know what it is, something in the energies you read or something, and it's just like, something's going to happen
Hearing
tonight.
spiritual street noise. Something's going on out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's hard to explain. And then, I mean, there's some times where something happens and I never saw it coming either.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But that amount of physicality that we had on Friday night's tour was a little bit more than we normally get, and it's not anything that I'm afraid of. It's something that really makes me wonder, like so many people on the tour. But I do have to say, too, in kind of
Do you ever do, I know you do exit interviews, but do you ever, like, record them? Think of phone, because
no, not really.
people talking about their, if they're comfortable with it, talking about their experiences for
I
your
would
records,
really
that would
like
be kind
to.
of cool.
We
start
totally
recording
could.
more?
We totally could. And I think, too, in kind of...
Because what you need is more bookings. That's
Yeah, that's what we need. So
Right.
we never sleep through the month of October. I guess, and I didn't even think about it, and Ken, you can chime in on this, too.
Mm-hmm.
We had one group of people on the tour that were hospice workers, like in
And
the
there
thick
was,
of it.
what, like 10 of them?
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
And they had a lot of stories about the facility
bet they do.
that they work in. And I actually got an invite to the facility after the tour to go over and check it out for myself. So that's something that we'll talk about in a future show and kind of how that
They're
works.
experiencing things as well.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
I would
constantly. They
imagine.
had tons of stories they were sharing with us.
People
at
in
the end.
hospices and nursing homes have stories.
Oh, boy, do they ever.
Yeah.
Boy,
They
do they
see
ever.
all this stuff. They see
Yeah.
the end of life stuff.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I wonder if, and I'm just sitting here still trying to process it, I wonder if that had something to do with it, too. That we had so many people that are around people that pass all
Maybe.
the
So
time.
they would have brought a lot with
So
them.
they may have brought a lot of energy or people with
Right.
them as well.
So we may have had the perfect spiritual storm
Yeah,
last
and you've got that
Friday.
campfire going, which you guys normally create for spirit. and
Right.
It's like,
We kind of opened the
people
gate.
attached to them kind of saw an opportunity to.
Yeah, you know, that didn't even dawn on me till right now.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just
I have
trying
to
to
give
think
that
about
woman that you were talking about a lot of credit too, because she was very open to this, and she's like, "Yes, I'm going to go tell this person that they need to forgive this person," and
Yes.
so they were really open to it as
No,
well.
And I bet they hear a lot of that.
I'm sure.
End of life regrets and people trying to process things at the end of their life.
I can't even imagine what it's
Yeah.
like doing that over and over again for people. That I've always thought that hospice workers are really special people.
Oh, God, yeah.
Has
to be a calling.
Yeah, really,
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And it's funny too because we had an older couple with their granddaughter, and they initially were going to take the earlier tour. They were going to take the 6:00 tour, and she had called me and she had asked, and she says, "Oh, what's the difference between the two tours, cemetery versus the in town?" And I told her, "Well, cemetery tour we do more spirit communications, not for everybody." And she's like, "We're going to switch to that tour." And she's like, "I really want to switch to that." She's for my granddaughter who's been having experiences,
She's
and
really
she might
into
have
it.
questions for you, and so on and so forth. And the granddaughter had experiences, but so did the grandparents
Yeah,
while we were in
so-
there. And she brushed it off when she was initially on the phone. She's like, "Oh, well, I'm just doing it for her," and she's really going to enjoy it. And then she ended up coming up before the granddaughter did at the end of the tour to tell me about her experiences in the cemetery.
Yeah.
It's just, it's funny. It's really hard to explain. And I like to share this information with people just to know what it's like when we're out there doing the tours, and just kind of the variety pack of what we experience for people and experiences.
How does that sharing, on the tours, does that sharing happen in the open in the group or more often to you afterwards? on the way
That's
out?
an excellent question.
Yeah.
a little of both. but
It's a little bit of both, and I try to encourage people when we get to the cemetery, no matter what happens, it's a non-judgment zone. As things happen, feel free to share with us.
Right.
And sometimes, even though I say that, people wait
Sure.
till most
They're reluctant,
everybody
yeah.
walks away, and then they pull you aside so nobody can hear. But sometimes people will come out and say it on the tour as well. But I think more often than not, people would rather put it in the format of I'm not crazy, but I think this just happened to
Right.
me while we were out on the tour. So it's,
I agree. It's like you have a receiving line at the end of the tour where people want to talk to
Yeah,
her privately.
exactly.
It's true. Where
Yeah.
they want to talk to her privately one-on-one, and people will wait in line for this at the end of the tour.
Well, they know they're safe too.
There's a few bold people that it's like, I don't mind, I'll share,
Yeah.
But they're fewer and further between.
But they're safer with you guys than they are in the group.
With their
'Cause
own
they-
families sometimes.
Yeah. 'Cause
oh, most definitely.
people don't want to be judged by the fact that they thought they had an experience.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing of it is, there's so many people that are having experiences, and I constantly talk about it in my talks and on my tours, and even here on the show is, even though you're not hearing about these experiences out there, they're happening.
Yeah.
Even though your neighbor might not be telling you, I'm hearing all these stories. So if all of this is happening all the time, doesn't matter the time of day or night or where you are, there's so much happening, I would say be comfortable with the experience that you've had, even if you can't explain it.
Right.
That it is an experience, and not to be dismissive of it, even if somebody that's with you doesn't believe you.
Right.
So it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And
I think these days, though, don't you find, you guys have been doing this a while, don't you find that in this climate right now, it's not that it's more acceptable, but people are more open to it?
I think people are.
There's less just dismissing it and judgment on it.
There is, well, and I think part of that is because people are open more spiritually about things, and they're questioning and they're wondering, and they're starting to notice the synchronicities of life, so that makes them more open. There's still a stigma out there, definitely.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
But by and large, I find that people, they're questioning more, even if they don't understand.
People will listen now before they'll deride. They'll just say, well, that's interesting. And then they'll sit there and they'll process on their own how credible they think it is.
Right.
But they'll listen to it.
Right. And they'll, in the past, people try to justify it. Oh, well, I was tired, or this or that was happening. And now people are like, well, maybe not. Maybe that was something that was going on there, even if I don't understand what it was.
Isn't that part of your challenge? Because a lot of people see things and they're so quick to dismiss it. They might even do it instantly and subconsciously.
Oh, constantly.
And I'm guessing all of us every day are seeing things that we just pass off.
Oh, most definitely.
I didn't really see that, or that must have been something else, or
something in my eye, whatever. Yeah,
it's a ghost.
It was a raccoon.
It was a raccoon.
Yeah.
No, it's very true, but it also depends on where we are when these things happen. If we're at work, we're not going to be distracted by what's going on. If we're driving down the road, did we really see somebody on the side of the road, or have I been driving for too many hours? So we're quick. It's only and that's what's so cool about what I do is it's only when you're in this energy, or in this space, when you're standing in front of a building and we're talking about ghosts, now you're kind of open up to it, and you're thinking about what's going on. Yeah. So it's different. But I think if again, mindfulness and awareness, if you paid more attention to what's going on, I don't mean stop everything you're doing, but just think about it a little bit more, maybe you wouldn't be so dismissive of what's happening.
I use the example all the time. Two guys walking in the wood. One guy's just seeing the mosquitoes, and the other guy's hearing birds and seeing animals and seeing deer. It's just how you tune to it, right? All this stuff is still there. It's just whether you're tuned in or not.
Well, and I think that really brings us to the fact that there's so much more going on out there than we can imagine if we paid attention.
Activity is up? Oh, more than we can imagine.
Yeah, more than we can imagine.
Especially in the towns we hang out in.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt. Yeah. And I one of the things I end our cemetery tour is with kind of the statement that, you guys all came out to take a ghost tour and experience, what it's like to communicate with the spirit. I'm like, you guys all have your own. Like, you all brought your own to the cemetery tonight. You don't have to take a ghost tour.
And people are like, what?
Yeah, to experience spirits or the paranormal. You all have them all around you. And people are like,
never thought of that.
Well, yeah, I didn't think of that. So I don't know. It's a constant trying to make people aware and comfortable with what they want to share. But we just had such a really interesting experience on Friday.
In my times doing the shows with you guys, the impression I've gotten is where there is activity, that draws more activity.
Oh, I agree.
Almost like spirit. Again, sees the campfire. Oh, there's somebody's listening over here. I'm going to go over there. So when you get a group together and they're bringing their own and everyone's antenna is tuned, then it just opens up everything, right?
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And I think we see that particularly the most with the cemetery tour.
Yeah.
Because people are already in that frame of mind, we're going to do some spirit communication. I don't know what that's about, but I want to see it. And I've actually had, on a couple of occasions, people that have come to the cemetery and they said they already opened themselves up to the spirits that were with them and put the call out before they even came to the tour that they wanted,
Some people prepare themselves like
Interesting,
that. I set the intention that I wanted to see my grandmother.
It's a spiritual outing. Having a cookout.
Spiritual picnic.
Yeah.
So it's interesting too how people prepare themselves for the tour. Some people just come and they're like, whatever, I'm here to see whatever. But the other people are like, you know what? I figure if we're going to do this, then I'm going to start calling people in. So, it's like the call goes out to the spirit world. If you're going to be around, then show up and let us know. Or people, I'm looking for that closure and I was hoping to get it on this tour. And it's just strange, the varying degrees of people's intention when they come out with us. Again, I'm largely talking about the cemetery tour just because of what it is.
And what we do on the tour.
And what we do on that tour.
But it's true, because you get that a lot where someone either comes forward or they get picked. And at the end of the tour, they come up to you and say, "Yes, I'm glad. I came here with the intention to talk to my grandfather, and it happened."
And then, like, they're the ones that got picked first. Like,
Yeah.
how does that even happen? Like,
Right.
how it's...
Yeah, we didn't know.
Yeah, we had no idea. And, you're picking one person out of, 25, 30 people.
You don't profile?
I try not to. but even still, like I said, using the example of the grandparents and the granddaughter, like, she was like, oh, no, we're just doing it for her. And then she ended up having an experience in there. So even in that sense, you wouldn't have known. Which is just, I don't know, it's just really amazing. And I think that's why I never tire of it. It's never boring. It's always interesting. It's always different.
It's got to be an interesting challenge for you, because how many thousands of times have you been in this cemetery?
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think that even how many times I'm in there, it's different every single time. It's never the same thing
You're
twice.
dealt a different spiritual hand.
Well,
right?
because I'm bringing in different people all the
Right.
time, so it's different energy.
It's different every time. It really is. I mean, and you don't know what they're bringing, and then boom, nails it.
Yeah, and I think that's exciting for me. Is, you know what? Here's a whole different group of people. I'm going to hear all these different stories. Who is Elizabeth going to draw out from me? Because I always ask her, who do I need to talk to the most first, right out of the gate? Who needs to know it the most? And on Friday, it was funny. The first person she indicated was a woman who had her grandmother with her. And I said, she's around. I said, something's going on with you. And she's like, yeah, she says, I've experienced a lot of family loss this year.
Yeah.
And her grandmother was there to help usher her through it and make sure that everything was going to be okay.
Support her, yeah.
And, again, here's this random person on the cemetery tour.
Yep.
Is it random? I don't know. I can look into it even deeper than that. Is it truly random?
Well, or was it,
The people on the tour are kind of pre-qualified, but still, which one you pick out of that group.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows?
We don't know who it's going to be.
How that happens.
Yep.
And it's funny because I got another message from a woman. She said she came on the tour, same tour. Again, it's funny how the messages come through afterwards. And she said she came on the tour hoping that she would make contact with somebody that was on the other side. And she said, you know what? She says, I'm okay with that. She says, because I saw the people you made contact with really needed it more than I did.
Oh, yeah.
It's, I don't know. It's hard to explain.
There's some
really
kind of
is.
level of understanding with some people.
Yeah. I don't know. It's awesome though. It's awesome, and that's why.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good feeling when
Plus,
when the tour's over.
You see the relative nature of your discomfort with your particular spiritual problem.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, I'm a little uncomfortable with that, but those people are struggling. I'm glad they got what they needed. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, people get closure. They get what they need. It's therapeutic, really.
Yep. And we don't know what their story is, and we always hope that when they leave, that they're at least more open to it. That if they want to ask for a sign, they can. That there's more that they can do too. So we try to give them a little bit of empowerment to the end of the tour.
Excellent.
It's kind of the side of the tours that we didn't expect when we first started
this was
but
never
that
the
people would
intent.
come up and just unload.
Yeah.
And they would just feel better after. 'Cause someone listened and understood, which they couldn't get before.
Yeah, well, that's the safe harbor. Someone who's open to what they have to say, and they've probably been sitting on it for so long amongst their family and friends.
And we didn't realize that at first. We're like, wow, this is like people are getting help from this tour.
Yeah, it's just been an interesting evolution. So I just thought I would share, what happened on the cemetery tour. And it really, every time we do the cemetery tour, we do a whole just show on what we experienced on that tour, because it's always just leaves me speechless.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah, I mean, they're all good, but this was like a standout this past week.
Yeah, it was, and there'll be more to come. I'm sure that we'll talk about on future shows as well.
So you're going to do like storm pop-up tours.
Oh no,
No?
no! Oh my God, no! Please, no storm pop-up
8 hours
tours.
notice. We got a storm tomorrow. Come on.
Yeah,
Bring your
maybe
rain
somewhere,
gear.
yeah, somewhere in between. We're trying to avoid the downpours, if anything. That was just harsh.
Well, if you were prepared, if you knew you were going into a storm, bring your storm gear.
But think about it. I'm standing in the middle of the cemetery with copper dowsing rods.
Oh yeah, that's not good.
Enlightening.
There goes Roxie in a puff of smoke.
2 metal rods in her.
Yeah, well,
Then you can really communicate with me on the other
part
side.
of it aside.
Yeah,
on the storm tour. Yeah.
I mean, that could be an interesting tour. Communicate with your tour guide who's now on the other side.
a transition during the tour.
Great. That's a one-time tour.
Yeah.
Think about how the tickets would sell for that.
One and done.
One and done.
No, because Ken would continue, and you'd come back and help him.
I'll grab the dowsing
You and
rods.
Elizabeth.
There we go. We'll keep it going.
There you go.
What do you ever think about that? About
on the Vail team.
being able to meet Elizabeth, what it's going to be like at that point?
You know, I have thought about it, and it's just, it's strange because I feel like I know her. It's just weird. It's so strange.
Yeah, there's some kind of kinship.
I feel like I know
You
her.
guys have a relationship, yeah.
You know,
For years now.
For quite some time, but you know, as far as I know, and then again, you know, there's so much of my own family history that I just don't know, and it's impossible for me to find out. It's just a strange team up. I don't understand.
For now, right?
For now,
Yeah,
right.
true for now. So, so I don't know. I'm excited about the prospects. I'm not afraid of death or anything like that.
Not in a rush, but
I'm never in a rush. But it's, and for some people they are. Death is quite frightening. But I've experienced so much that I can't be afraid of it.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested to see, you know, what happens for me on the other side. And yeah, if Elizabeth is there and, you know, some sort of connection is made, that's great. I feel we're already connected.
Well, that's the big fear generation with death. The big threat in death is that's all there is.
Right.
But if you've, you know, swum in the waters of there's afterlife or whatever that's going on the other side, it takes some of the fear out of it, doesn't it?
For me, it does.
Yeah.
And, you know, this has been...
You have conviction. A lot
I
of
do.
people don't have conviction.
And
I don't have conviction.
Well, I think it's just the experiences that you have and your
Right.
openness and what your belief system is. And for me, you know, if I had a belief system at all, it's been challenged over and over and over again. And finally, you know, for me, I've just formulated my own belief system based on what I've seen. And, you know, everybody's going to be different. But to have this happening my entire life, just all these different experiences
Yep.
and taking them for what they are, I'm like, you know what? This is just incredible. So I'm not excited about what's on the other side, but I have a good sense of things.
Well, I think that's a benefit, though, of doing what we do, is you do start to build a sense of what's out there, and it's not just the end, so you can feel better
Right.
about it.
Yeah,
But does it give you any... We're getting into the woods here. Does it give you any insight because you're dealing with a lot of spirit that is on various levels of discomfort for whatever reason, whether it be regrets or trying to make things up or things like this? Does it give you any insights of how to wrap up your life to avoid
yes,
some of the traps that they're into?
yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
And I
So
think,
what would you pass on if you were going to tell someone some of the things you've learned?
that's a really deep question.
That's a great
Yeah.
question.
What's the baggage you don't want to take to the other side?
That's a really deep question.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Why don't we throw it
You're gonna
over to a
tease it?
break,
You're going to tease it. I like it.
Ooh.
and I will answer that when we come back. So you're listening to Wicked Curious. Don't go away.
For the best in curious entertainment, you have to check out New England Curiosities, located in the historic city of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. New England Curiosities offers tales and tours of folklore, ghosts, and mysterious history, with author and historian Roxie Zwicker, New Hampshire's longest-running and original ghost tour. Roxie has been entertaining the locals, visitors from away, and curious souls since 1994. New England Curiosities has been offering tours and special haunted events since 2002. Highly respected and thoroughly entertaining. You'll be talking about your experience for months to come. Discover why New England Curiosities is consistently on top of travel and tourism lists. Yankee Magazine calls the Shadows and Stones Graveyard Tour one of New England's top 5 cemetery tours. The Boston Globe says an experience with New England Curiosities is one of the 3 best alternatives to visiting Salem, Massachusetts. From scenic trolley rides to walking tours and speaking engagements, there's something for everyone. So join New England Curiosities and experience why they are consistently featured in the media, including television appearances on the History Channel and the Travel Channel. Check out the latest legendary tours and events from New England Curiosities at newenglandcuriosities.com. And be sure to like New England Curiosities on Facebook.
Welcome back to Wicked Curious Radio. I am Roxie Zwicker. You are finding us on the net, New England Talks, Any Talks, and Facebook Live, and 102.9 FM HD2. I am here with
And we want to say hi. We should say hi to our friends up on the unofficial page of Portsmouth.
Yes. Hello, unofficial page of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Thank you for
Always generous for posting us. And
Yes. We're very grateful that you share our link and our story. Particularly today, we're talking a lot about Portsmouth and some of our experiences in the city.
and we're on Minga Valley here too today.
Oh,
So say hi to them.
oh, hello! I did not know you were there.
Putting our shares up. We appreciate it.
Yes, we greatly appreciate that. And hello to Matt. He is in one of the Facebook groups that I belong to for ghost tour operators. He operates the Greater Adirondack Ghost and Tour Company over in Plattsburgh, New York. So hi,
hello.
Matt. I hope you're feeling better. I know you're going through a little bit of a health issue there, so I hope you're doing well. And maybe one of these days we'll have you on the show. We talk a lot about what it's like to run ghost tours and what it's like to be in the industry and the ups and downs of what we do and research and customers and all that stuff. So it's a really cool little group of ghost tour guides.
Plus, I'll bet the Adirondacks have some stories too.
Oh, I have, I have no doubt. I would love to hear more about that. So
Yes.
maybe we'll make that happen in the near future. Yeah, we probably should start lining up some more guests for the show. Indeed. Oh, so we went to the break. I'm sure you're all sitting there like, all right, how are we going to answer that question with
Biting
quite
your
the
nails.
question? Biting your nails. I'm biting my nails too.
So I
Trying-
asked the question: all the experience you've had with spirit and what the struggles they're dealing with on the other side. What lessons have you taken from it, and what can you give us?
Well, I think when I think back to some of my strongest experiences with spirit, you can't be hung up on the things that you've done in this life. And a lot of people talk about regret and I wish I could change things and things would be different. I think one of the first things that I would say to somebody who is trying to figure that out for themselves, you can't change what you've done and you don't know how things would be different. Things may not be what you think they would have been if you could go back and change things.
So learn to let go.
So not only do you have to learn to let go, but it doesn't mean you have to be happy with the changes that you make in your life or the experiences that you had, but you have to make peace with them. And I think that's one of the most important things. I remember
Acceptance.
Acceptance. I remember the story of a woman who had come to me and her boyfriend was in a police chase and he actually drove off a bridge and killed his friends in the car as well as himself.
Wow.
And he was tied to that spot. And this was actually a reading that I had done, just mediumship, no cards, no cemetery, no dowsing rods, none of that, because the energy around her was so strong. And he just wanted to go back and fix everything. And there are some times in our life where we can't go back and fix things, and you can't be hung up on that.
Right.
Because you don't know, something else might have happened that was tragic too. So we can't change things. If we can, and it's hard if we can accept what it is and learn to move on. Forgiveness is huge. It doesn't mean you have to condone, but if you can at least get by that, that's something that we just ran into on Friday, and it shows up over and over again.
The big lesson of forgiveness is forgiveness isn't for them.
Correct.
Forgiveness
It's
is
for you.
Yeah.
Well stated.
So you're not absolving them as
Right.
much as you're releasing yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's another reason why spirits continue around us. I think we inadvertently call spirit to us. I find this happening a lot as well, that if you're thinking or dwelling or working with someone in a way that you don't realize, another story that I have is a young girl who kept going up to the fireplace mantle, and it was for her uncle, and kept going to the prayer card and putting up pictures and assembling it, and she didn't know she was actually calling him to be the spirit in the house. So, it's okay to send that person love and to allow them to move on, because you don't want to trap the spirit here either. And I think sometimes...
So he was compelled to react to what she was doing.
Right, because she
They'd
felt...
experienced things happening in the house.
Yeah, and she didn't know because her mother didn't want to tell her what was going on for fear of scaring her. And it ended up coming out in a session where the two of them were there, and they ended up looking at each other, and it was like, oh my God, like the two puzzle pieces immediately fit together.
Yeah.
Like she was doing one thing at one time and her mother was experiencing something at the same exact time, but they didn't know.
Right.
So we put that together. So I think sometimes we call spirits to us and we don't even realize that we're doing that. And it's okay to tell them how you feel and what's going on with you. But you also have to release them, because otherwise they're going to stay around you because they're trying to help you through it, or because they want to let you know that they're okay. And, a lot of
And that doesn't mean they're forever gone.
Oh
Just
gosh,
means
no.
that they're not tethered to.
Right, that they don't feel a responsibility to you as you're going through the process. A lot of people have asked, are they okay now? I really haven't come across a lot of spirits that are continuing to feel physical pain. That
right.
seems to change when they cross over. That there is no particular age when they reach out to you too. That's a spiritual choice as to how they want to show themselves. Sometimes it's when they were the most healthy, is when they come back to you. So it's again, it's very individual based on what's going on with the person in that situation. But I think forgiveness is a big one. Do-overs is another big one. You have to deal with the cards that have been dealt to you and the decisions that you made at the time.
Accept and forgive. Yeah.
And that weighs spirit down.
Yeah.
And it really does. And
because these topics keep coming back up through the spirit communication with these
constantly
with these people.
Different people, but
It's funny
because
you would think one of the things that allows you to do that is you would think spirit would have that perspective of everything's going to be okay.
I think they do, but I think because they're so attached to the people that are still here and who
Right.
they left behind, that it stops them from feeling the comfort of that, because they can see what somebody's going through.
Yeah, you're watching the suffering might be too strong, but you're watching the struggle with some of these issues.
Right.
Right.
And I
It'd be
think
like your child being sick or a pet being
and
sick
feeling
from
that
it.
you're helpless and that there's
Yeah.
nothing that you can do. And I think that was part of the example that we just had on Friday night's tour with that woman who experienced so much loss in her family. She's like, I don't know who's going to go next. I don't know what's going to happen. So, imagine being the grandmother on the other side. If I could only get to her and let her know that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And, even now that just, it freaks me out. In a very good way, not in a scary way. It's just, it's that we sometimes call them confirmation chills. That
Interesting.
for people that are, and I don't call myself a medium or anything like that or a psychic. I just, I do what I do.
That's what she does.
Whatever. You got to put a name on it. I don't
Everything
know.
needs a label for
I don't
people.
need it. I don't need a name.
Why do you struggle with? I mean, they're labels, which everyone struggles with.
It's a
but-
label, exactly.
Because preconceived notions.
Yeah.
Of what a psychic is or what a medium does, and
Because depends who
Well,
you talk
psychic's
to.
a different deal, right? That's a future. deal.
It is a future deal, but even for a psychic, like I'm a firm believer the future's not fixed.
Right.
So that kind of takes the whole psychic ability out of it for me, because I think you can affect change. Even from the other side, I've seen how change can be affected from spirits to people that that are still with us. So it's kind of my own brand of things, and it's hard to explain, but it's
You give it a name and someone thinks, oh, it's this, and they think they
Right.
got it. So
Yeah.
labels are tough.
labels are really tough. So I don't know. I mean, does that answer your question and what you were kind of looking?
Kind
I
of.
mean, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of complications. A lot of people they have stuff to work through before they can be at peace and
Right.
cross over, so to speak.
But some people, I mean, and notwithstanding, some people do cross over. Like some people will come on the tour and they're like,
their
I'm
work
looking,
is done, whatever, yeah.
And they're like, I'm looking to connect with this person. I'm like, nope, they're not there. Like, no, they're gone. They've transitioned and everything's okay.
But in your dowsing, you get, are you at peace? And you'll get no.
Yeah, sometimes I get
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
I try to figure out why they're not at peace.
I think it's interesting that a lot of these struggles are so powerful that they go beyond death. We struggle with remorse and regret and unresolved issues here a lot, and part of the deal you hope is that you can get to release those, but I guess not in a lot of cases. So you got to do them here.
But I don't think it's like a spiritual authority though. They just have to realize for
No,
themselves that they're free.
that problem is so powerful that it just lingers with your spirit.
Well, I think emotions are an energy, and like I said, your connection that you have to people that are here. There's our sadness that we've lost them, but there's also their sadness that they lost us.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think that's why they continue to come around us. I think it's their choice. I think they don't have to. I don't think that you have to fulfill these, 10 items on a checklist before you cross over to the other side. But I think as humans with emotions and things that remain unsaid, I mean, again, that's like one of the biggest ones. If I had just 5 more minutes to tell you or 5 more minutes to take that back, I made something important that really wasn't. All of those types of issues that have come up for me, if you could go back and fix it, would you?
Yeah.
And I think that's what it comes down to. Not like you have to, but would you? Would you make the attempt to do that?
I do believe that some of these spirits probably don't even realize they have the choice. So they're stuck there even though they're not.
Yeah.
Once they figure that out.
Like we don't know we have the choice to accept and forgive.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So, yeah, I don't. It's a strange thing to try to explain, but it keeps happening over and over again.
Yeah.
And I don't. I mean, 25 years from now, I think I'm still going to be talking about it. Mm-hmm. I don't.
Probably still getting chills and still getting spooked.
And I think it's okay.
But all these are
But
lifelong
it's a good
issues.
thing.
And,
They
and
are.
perhaps beyond. Yeah.
Well, definitely beyond.
It's just human nature or
It-
our spiritual nature.
I think it is our spiritual nature. I think that's why it transcends to, even people with their pets, not to, get too far afield with that. But, even that connection, that closure that, I felt that animal around. We've got, stories in Portsmouth of animal haunting, so to speak, that there's an animal around that, we have that connection. And here's somebody that you really have a hard time communicating with. But there's that one connection that you have that transcends even communication.
Yeah.
So.
Well.
But no, we do get people that, I know my pet's with me. I get signs. It happens a lot.
So I would say in summation, as I've said a million times on the show before, you're not crazy. Just be open to it. Ask for confirmation. Show gratitude. Just, what, I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know what it means, but thank you for that.
Yep.
And
be
you
open
open the
to it.
door, and it allows more to happen. Even if it takes time to piece it together and what it means and what's going on. I've always told a lot of people, just think about how strongly this person felt connected to you to make all this effort. And if you stop and think about that for a minute, it's like, wow, maybe they felt stronger about myself than I felt about them. There's something to that. There's a power to that in its own way.
Right.
And I don't know. It just makes me feel like there is so much more. There is just so much more to our experience and what we're going to experience when we do pass over.
And it's rewarding that people get what they need, the closure. Or they leave feeling better. They never leave feeling
Huge
worse.
reward. Yeah,
So
and
Yeah.
it's very rewarding.
yeah, that there's some sort of peace or understanding.
It's a great claim to be able to make, isn't it?
It is.
Always go away with something positive.
It feels good.
It does. It does. And I certainly don't package the tours that way or sell the tours that way. I mean, if you read the description for the Shadows and Stones tour, I'm not like, hey, everybody leaves with a smile on their face.
It just happens.
But I hope, and I always, on no matter what tour it is, I tell people that I want to give you something to think about. Whether you're in Portsmouth or whether you're thinking about spirits, that it's at least going to start some sort of conversation with you. And that's what I hope you take away from any experience that you come to, whether it's storytelling or whether it's a tour or a class or what have you, that there's something in it that's going to move you forward.
Right.
Yeah. Whew. Wow.
Yeah, that was deep dive.
That was a little
deep
more
dive.
intense.
That was a deep dive,
That was a
But-
little more intense than I planned it on going.
But it's just the way the tour goes, especially this past Friday. It was-
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty wow.
Yeah, but you talk to people, you talk to spirit who has more experience, you learn something from it, and I wanted to learn from you.
I'm still learning too, though. I'm still learning too.
It's still a learning
yeah, and
process.
I am very humble with the experiences that I continue to have, and very appreciative. So speaking of experiences, I can predict. I'm going to be psychic now. I can predict that we're about to have some experiences because we're going to be going up to Moosehead Lake coming up this week.
Yeah.
We're taking a 5-day trip up there to go see Mount Katahdin. We're going to look for moose. There's some haunted houses up there, some really good
Be looking for
stories.
ghosts.
Be
Yeah.
looking for ghosts. I want to go to, I know it doesn't sound exciting, but I'm excited. I'm going to the Lumberman's Museum. so I can learn about
Interesting.
the Maine men who cut down the trees and how they lived and the stories that they
Come on,
had.
I got to believe there's ghost stories up in them woods.
Of course
yeah,
there are.
sure.
Of
So
course there are.
yeah.
So I'm excited to kind of explore an area that we haven't gone to before, and much more remote and rural. And it's definitely going to be a bit of a change from Portsmouth, which has just been
Bustling.
so incredibly bustling with tourists.
say
So it'd be
the
nice
least,
to get
yeah.
away.
And Moosehead's one of those deep, still lakes. It's
Yeah, it's got a mountain sticking out of it. It's a big
Yeah.
lake.
Yeah, so I've been doing a bit of research and we've been mapping out our route. So I'm excited next time when we come back next week. We'll probably do like a repeat show. I'm not sure
Is
what we'll
that
do next week.
restaurant part of it? I went up there years ago, and I don't remember the name of the place, but it's on the end of like 25 miles of Fire Road. It's an old place where, lumber people used to hang out, and
Really?
they've turned a restaurant out of it. Yeah,
Ooh.
We haven't been there yet, but we did see some advertisements in the brochures that we have. I think it might still be there. It's like a lumber camp,
yeah.
but it's like a restaurant.
Right.
They feed you this
Right.
full like lumberjack meal. I think it's
I
still
think
there.
it's still
Yeah.
there.
That was
We'll
interesting.
find out what it is.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
There was a little
find out.
check house at the beginning of the Fire Road that goes through all the lumber mills. It's like a gravel road, and they count the people in the car. And I was just joking with him. I said, so you know how many people to look for? He goes, exactly.
That's their job.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we'll see if we can find that. I know we've got our travel guides. We just bought a new map book, so we don't get lost
Up
on any
to
of those
date.
roads.
Yep.
So we're all up to date. We're making sure the car's ready to go.
It's good to go.
Like, yeah.
New tires.
Yeah, we just got new tires for the car. 'Cause,
Excellent.
Yeah, we don't want to end up being the ghost story up there. What happened to them?
So do I
Lost
get
on the
my
side of the road.
headless ghost story now?
Yes, you will get your
Yes.
headless ghost
Headless
story.
ghost.
So this story is one that I actually just told in part last week. We did Lost Legends in lecture at Deadwick's Hall of Lost Art. It's a storytelling night that I do once a month. And
Great event and a great space.
Oh yeah, great event, great space. We were sold out, and our theme this month was creepy calamities. So this particular story is it's got the ghost, it's got the calamity, and it's missing a head.
Even better.
Wow.
Even better. So I'm just gonna bring it from the script that I originally had put together from the story. So I give you all of the details. The year was 1898. And Sarah Ware was a vibrant woman and divorcee who was employed as a maid in Bucksport, Maine. During a raucous party, Sarah jokingly declared herself as the prize to a winner of a poker game. So if you win the game, you get me. The local businessmen in the game were known to have many interests in town, among them bootlegging and prostitution. A man named Tom Boulder, who was a local attorney, who, while good at his trade, could outdrink and outpunch anyone that got in his way.
Outpunch.
Outpunch. If there was some secret illegal doings in town, Tom not only knew about it, but he seemed to be a part of it as well. When the poker game was over, Tom was the winner, but his prize, Sarah, had taken off to buy some cigarettes and some booze on the way home.
Ah,
Tom had an idea
I
of...
dated her.
No surprise there. Tom had an idea of where she went and left to find his prize. He waited for her to go past him, and he hunched down in an overgrown field along the road. When she left the store and started her way home, he jumped out in front of her along the path and insisted that she had promised to be the prize at the poker game.
I was just kidding.
Yep, Sarah laughed as she tried to walk past him, but she could not get away. 18 days later,
Wow.
her decaying dead body
Oh, God.
was discovered on the side of the road in that overgrown field. A passerby happened to smell the odor of her body, which made them... Did you just sniff?
I went,
Stop
Accentuating
and take
that.
notice.
Yeah, there you go.
Great. Thanks for the sound effects.
A little embellishment. This is good.
The state in which her body was found was quite disturbing and foretold of why she was murdered. Her left ear had been cut off, and her mouth was disfigured, with her upper and lower jaws broken off, as well as a cheekbone was missing.
Lord.
The suspicion
Brutal.
was that her ear had been removed, symbolizing everything that she may have heard again, at that party,
Yeah.
and her mouth representing everything that she could talk about.
Yeah, good.
Guy thought this through.
For it was believed that Sarah could have gone to authorities regarding the underhanded dealings that Tom was involved with. When the authorities tried to move the body, Sarah's head fell off.
Oh.
There was a man named Spooner who came forward and said that he was paid to move the body. However, he later recanted, and many people on the investigative team had died over the 4 years the investigation had taken place.
Really?
And it was also believed that a pact was made with the poker players. From that point on, her death was under investigation. The inquest jury came back from the judgment and said that she had met death at the hands of a person or persons unknown. Today, it isn't even known.
That.
That was easy. Huh?
Yeah, was that easy one? Today, it isn't even known where Sarah Ware is buried. It is believed that she originally was buried in the cemetery that was once part of Silver Lake. When the area was dammed up in the 1930s, the majority of the graves were moved, but it is said that Sarah Ware's body could not be found. There is a headstone with her name and dates in the Oak Hill Cemetery in Bucksport, Maine, towards the back of the cemetery, amongst other family graves. At least part of her is allegedly buried underneath that tombstone. However, gotta love this, her head remained in evidence lockup for nearly 100 years in a wooden box in Ellsworth before being buried somewhere around the tombstone in 1998.
Wow.
It seemed that in death, nothing had gone right for Sarah Ware, which is maybe why she's still seen around Silver Lake.
Her head was in lockup.
Yep, they found
They
it. They
had the
were.
head.
This was a newspaper article I found. They actually were cleaning out the police station, and they found it in a wooden box. They had pictures of the wooden box.
God.
Hey, what's this?
Hey, what's this?
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Some people believe
This is why we send the rookie in to clean this up. Yeah.
Some people believe that she is angry that her case was never solved, and other people believe she can't be at peace since her head and body are separated. Many visitors to the lake have reported seeing a ghostly woman walking along its shoreline, and a few have gotten closer to this ghost only to find that she has no head.
No head.
Others have
It's in
reported
a box in Ellsworth.
Others have reported issues while recreating on the lake. Some has felt as though their boat was repeatedly shoved or hit by something beneath the lake's waters, while others have reported motors and electrical equipment malfunctioning or refusing to start in certain areas of the lake. So there
I were
you
here.
have
I'd
it.
hang out at the police office.
Yeah, really. Say, give me my head back.
Yeah. Come on, guys.
Well, maybe the police station was haunted. We have lots of stories of police stations that are haunted. So,
Really?
As a matter of fact, we'll have to get into that.
We'll have to save that for another show. But yeah, maybe the station is haunted. We just don't know about it. Wouldn't
So
surprise
where's
me.
the head now? Do they still have it?
No, they
No,
buried it.
allegedly they buried it with her.
Oh,
but-
okay, I
but,
missed that.
But some people aren't sure. It could still be, over by the lake because the lake is so haunted.
And it's still not with her body
And
because
it's
I don't
still
know where
not
the
with
body
her body.
is.
And there are even some theories that the gravestone is in name only and that her body is still under the lake. There's so many different thoughts as to what happened
Hence
to all of her
haunting
remains.
the boats and
Correct.
recreational boaters and stuff.
Exactly. So her parts and pieces could be anywhere.
Do police ever contact people to try to resolve these issues? Like, we've had this head in here for a while. We'd like to kind of cleanse this room.
You know anything about this?
Yeah.
Maybe this belongs to you.
Well, I know our friend Susan Spooler, she's president of the Massachusetts Dowsing Society, and she's helped police stations and departments with some issues that they've had over the years. And she's pretty open about it, so I could always talk to her for any specifics, but she's had some experiences with them as well.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, she's doused for them and found things or
and
discovered
found
things.
or help them on cases and try
That's
to figure
pretty neat.
things out with energy and spaces.
Wow.
So there is your headless ghost story.
Great story.
So
You're a woman, don't hang out at poker games.
well, I
Yeah.
was just gonna say,
Don't offer yourself as
Don't
the
offer
prize.
yourself as the prize at a poker game.
That doesn't seem like a good idea. no.
Lesson learned.
I mean that's where it really started right there. He went to claim his prize. If she hadn't
Yeah.
offered herself up, maybe she'd still be buried with her head today. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's a good story.
Yeah, right.
Words to live by.
Words to live
That's
by.
right. Famous words.
All right, so tell people where they can contact you for if they want to get involved in the tours in October, because now's the time.
Now is the time. Our schedule is mostly up. It's NewEnglandCuriosities.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can subscribe to our newsletter where we share stories like the one that we just told you. And in our newsletter, we give you a little bit of a heads up with what's going on with us, so you can get kind of the advance notice of what's getting rolled out. But as I said at the beginning of the show, if you're looking for October, book now. And we have a lot of speaking engagements coming up as well. You can find those on our Facebook calendar, where you can come and just listen to ghost stories for free at, your local library or historical society. I make kind of the rounds in October as well. I'll be down
the
in...
symphony. How's the symphony date?
That's the 19th. It's coming up. So next time
people can get in there?
You can try pso.org. I'll be performing with the Portsmouth Symphony Orchestra, telling some ghost stories at Little Harbor Chapel, which will be really super exciting. So we'll
Do you
actually
get to rehearse? Have you?
Say it again?
Do you get to rehearse? Have you worked with them?
No.
It's going to be a walk-on?
No, it's going to be, we've just been chatting via email. So somehow it's all going to come together divinely.
It's going to be new to everybody. This will be great.
Oh, it's going to be cool. And we're going to film it. And, we'll have a little bit of video of what's going on. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, when
we'll
we actually...
some audio for the show here. We're going to have to...
Yeah, we'll
or
have
maybe
to...
some video. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out how we'll do that. Because actually when we come back from vacation, it'll be the very next day. And we'll be doing our show right after that. So
Nice.
We'll give you a fresh report about PSO.
We get a lot of good stuff in the works.
There's much in the works, as always, with New England Curiosities. So thank you so much for listening. We will be back soon. And as always, stay wicked curious.
First to take